A wise man once said, relationships are like armpits. Everyone has them, and sometimes they stink. And that's something I can agree with. Relationships are a big part of our lives, and between the hours of waking up and going back to sleep, we're making new relationships, we're strengthening old relationships, we're weakening some other relationships, and we're ending relationships. All of that constantly. It might seem like a bad thing that we lose relationships throughout our lives almost constantly, but if you think about it, it's a part of the natural cycle of things. For example, if you're at a bank and you're talking to a particularly cute teller while you're checking how much money you don't have, that right there can be seen as a short-term professional relationship. And when you say your goodbyes and you walk out, that relationship pretty much ends there. And that's the purpose of that relationship. It's been served and now it's done. You move on with your life perfectly normal. What would have been bad is if you took that relationship to be something other than what it was meant to be, and instead of just saying your goodbyes, you were more along the lines of, "Oh, parting, it is such sweet sorrow." Yeah, that would not have been cool at all. I'll be one of the first to say that how we handle relationships, especially in the event that they fail, has a lot to do with who we are as a person. A lot of people just push it out of their minds and move on with their lives like it never happened. Whereas other people like to hold on just a little bit longer to see if things will get better, because we're not perfect and we're all human. And there are lots of other ways that people deal with their relationships. And depending on the type of relationship and the circumstances, any one of these ways could be the right way to deal with it. Now, what I don't find cool is when relationships are completely ignored and they're just left to phase out into nothingness. Personally, I see failed relationships as a way to improve myself as a person. Here's an analogy. Think of a relationship as Super Mario. Now, the first time you're playing a level, you're more likely to fail and lose a life, and that is completely normal. But what you do when you fail and you lose that life is you mentally register what caused you to lose that life, and then the next time you try to avoid that obstacle or to make it past that obstacle without losing that life. You learned from that mistake and you got over the obstacle. Now, there will always be other obstacles ahead of that, but the more work you put into playing that game, the more skill you develop and the more able you are to deal with obstacles. And then you get to the point where you don't have to fail as much in order to be more successful at the game. And this can apply to relationships, because every time you make a mistake in a relationship, you take that as a learning opportunity to better yourself, and you work on whatever it is that you need to work on, make yourself into a better person, so the next time around you can avoid whatever caused the issue in the first place, and you make yourself a better person. And the more you do this, the more you improve yourself. You take yourself to version 2.0, version 3.0, version 4.0, whatever it may be. But the thing is, you get better. You become a better person on the inside and on the outside in some cases. Now, on the other hand, if you didn't take your failures to be learning experiences, back to the game of Super Mario, if you just kept running head on into that same obstacle, you'll never get past it. Like, you will literally just fail every single time over and over and over until it's game over. And the same thing applies for relationships. You either win or you learn. Every time you have a bad experience in a relationship, you take that as an opportunity to see where you went wrong, if you're at fault. And even if the other person is at fault, try to see if there was anything that you could have done Now, I'm not saying go out there and be someone's doormat and always try to find a way to blame yourself. I'm just saying be honest with yourself. Anytime you make a mistake in a relationship, don't be afraid to admit that you were wrong, because once you admit it, then you can move on to correcting the problem, and then you can take yourself to the next level. Now, this is where it gets a little bit complicated, and I have to stop the video game analogy. Life is no Nintendo game, in the words of Eminem. Relationships are a two-way street, and people like to point blame from time to time, even when they are the ones at fault. So you have to be careful for that. But at the same time, you need to be able to listen to see if there's any truth to what they're saying. And if there is any truth, that might be your chance to find something to work on in yourself. And I'll say it again, when it comes to relationships, you either win or you learn, which can kind of be the same for video games. Actually, no. In video games, you lose. You can definitely lose. Take the good with the bad, put in the effort that's necessary, and always try to find ways to improve yourself. Yep, so I'm just gonna leave you guys with that, just some food for thought, something that's been on my mind a lot lately. Figured I'd share it here. And that's it. Until next time, I'm out.